Assalamu alaikum. My name is Numan Azmi. I'm the coordinator of Save Golam Azam campaign. It's about a campaign against the persecution of Professor Golam Azam, who is at the age of 89 the oldest living politician in Bangladesh, who has been the president of Jamaat-e-Islami Bangladesh for 30 years until his retirement in 2001. Bangladesh is being ruled by a secularist anti-Islamic party called Bangladesh Awami League, who took over power in 2009 through a very controversial election victory. Since coming to power, they have started a campaign of terror with prosecuting thousands of people, arresting opposition leaders and activists against false charges, while at the same time releasing hundreds of their party activists, despite the fact that they have been charged with serious crimes including murder. Recently, they have set up what they call International War Crime Tribunal, despite the fact that it has been condemned by International Bar Association, Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International, and a number of prominent international criminal law lawyers about the unfairness and the fact that this is not in favor of the accused, but biased towards the government. So much so that the government is calling the leaders of the Bangladesh Jamaat-e-Islami war criminals, arrested most of the senior leaders, including the president, 2 vice president, secretary general, 3 assistant secretary general, and a number of ministers have publicly declared that let's hang these leaders without any charge or trial. That is the situation of the kangaroo court in Bangladesh, where the War Crime Tribunal chairman was a member of a mob trial which was unlawful, and they sentenced these leaders to death. But he is now the chairman of the tribunal. All the judges of that tribunal are either sympathizers or supporters of the government party, and the accused do not have the basic rights that are enjoyed by the criminals in the country. So this is the level of persecution. Why? Because the government feels that the Islamists are a threat to them. So this is about weakening the political opposition. And what we urge is to the international Muslim community, particularly I'm talking to the Malaysian Muslim community, please help us. Help us to restore justice in our country. Help us to stop our country prosecuting the Islamic leaders and trying to destroy the very establishment of Islam in a country which has 85% Muslims, the 3rd largest Muslim country in the world. We have over 130 million Muslims. The country people loves Islam, but because of the threat of persecution by the government against anyone who talks against the government, the people are afraid. The whole judicial system has been corrupted by government influence. The whole government police force, the paramilitary group of the government are becoming thugs and a muscle group of the government. And it's a campaign of terror. And there are murders, extrajudicial killings, hundreds of extrajudicial killings happening every single year. And what we need is to raise awareness about this injustice, about this gross human rights violation, where people have no say, no rights. Just because you don't conform to government line of thought, if you criticize the government, you get arrested. A prominent editor of a national newspaper, just for writing in sub-editorial criticizing the government, was jailed and brutally tortured. So that is the situation in our country. So we need your help to A, raise the awareness internationally, B, put pressure on the government of Bangladesh internationally to stop this violence, to stop this terror, and bring rule of law and justice and proper democracy in our country. One of the things we would like to highlight is what's happening against my father, Professor Golam Azam, who is at the risk of being arrested. The government has plans to arrest him, and the fact that in 1993 Bangladesh High Court in a judgment exonerated him of any crimes in 1971. Despite that, the government is trying to arrest him, harass him, persecute him, and he challenged openly to the government in a television interview last week on the 12th of November to prove any of these accusations. And he said very clearly that he has nothing to fear because a Muslim only fears Allah, and if he is arrested or killed, he will be happy to do that, accept that, because he will be a shaheed. And I urge people to raise their awareness about, if the government wants to have a fair International War Crime Tribunal, we have no problem with that. We want justice and what actually happened to come out in our country in 1971. But we want this trial to be fair, conform to international standard, that complies to the international convention, that is supported by International Bar Association, has representation from international lawyers, and it is fair and not biased. It looks at atrocities committed by all parties during 1971, not only one side of the group, and it does not get any influence by the government, but it's independent. We are not against the trial. We would want a trial to take place to look at what happened and bring people to justice who committed serious atrocities, which did happen. What we are talking about is stopping the prosecution against using alleged crime against people based on political vendetta, with false allegations, with no evidence. That is what we are against, and we want your help to establish justice and democracy, where fair trial prevails, where justice prevails, and where our country can be proud of doing something good for the country and the world. Jazakallah.